Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3970 79. Yeah. Today's date is 3rd of April. Yeah, 3rd of April 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 7:41 a.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright. So, question is, how we build school in India so they feel like exciting, welcoming, and healthy community rather than strict factories built for memorizing fact. Okay, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? This is question is actually about a education system in India. Why am I asking this question to myself? Um, in the future, I wanted to become a education minister of India. Okay, and before I wanted to become in the future, by the way. Okay, yeah. Before I wanted to become that particular person, I wanted to aware of that key, what kind of like a situation that I will gonna face, what kind of like a problem I will gonna face, and I just wanted to aware of that. Okay, to solve some of the problems and things and that. How do I supposed to get this question? Okay, yeah. Same. Okay, I went to ChatGPT, kind of like a say I will become this particular person, education minister of India. Suggest me 100 question before I became this. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me 100 question. This is one of those question. By the way, all those question actually in the mobile phone, but since it's a recording, I cannot do anything at all. So that's why I wrote question in here. Okay. By the way, if you are looking for this book, this is the How to Win and Influence People. I just like a basically this is in a, there is just a, almost like just couple of pages are remaining. Okay, I I read all the entire book, almost like a 90% I read the book. Really amazing book, by the way, really amazing book. Okay, yeah. All right, so let's talk about question. Yeah, the question is that key how we build such a school so that a kind of like a school will feel excited, welcoming, and healthy community rather than factories to build memorizing fact and things and that and that. How do we supposed to make the school as much as excited as it possible? Okay, so basically excited means what? Excited means what? Like a visually kind of like a exciting. Means like that ki colorful classroom, like posters, walls, ABCD things and that and that. Okay, yeah. You typically say this thing in every classroom. Okay, and are those essential? Yes, those are really essential. Okay, yeah. But I'm gonna tell you my scenario. What exactly is this thing? Okay, yeah. So from the first standard to probably 10th standard, these are very much essential. Okay, yeah. At the beginning it was too much, like basically let's just say a first standard student who went to the classroom. So what should supposed to be classroom look like? Classroom should supposed to be look like lot of colorful, like make sure that there is a lot of colorful picture, lot of colorful kind of like a poster, lot of colorful cartoon, lot of colorful kind of like a as much as color. Okay, yeah. Why is that kind of like a lot of colors? Basically like at the early stage of our life, that means like at the age of 5 and things and that colors are really essential. Okay, yeah, we don't know the what is exactly color and name and things like that. We understand the differentiate, this is the blue, this is the orange and things and that. But the problem is that na ki at like basically is this thing, since we are born, like since we are born means like that at the age of 5 we are not really that much understanding about colors. Okay, yeah, like this is a red, this is a white, this is a yellow, this is the orange and things and that and that. colors are really essential, and basically classroom is the only one place where kind of like a student will kind of like understand about colors and things and that. Okay. So that's why basically first grader students should supposed to be have their classroom should supposed to have very much as colorful as it possible. Okay. Another thing, textured. Okay. uh, Textured is a kind of like a very much expensive, by the way, because like a painting a wall with colorful things, it might be kind of like a easy, but texture would be little bit difficult. Okay. But still, textured is a kind of like a things that ki, basically is this thing na ki whatever the stuff that like what is this particular question is specifically is as about for first standard to 10th standard. Okay. Yeah. And specifically from first standard first to like basically what is actually is this thing, how beautiful your classroom is, kind of how beautiful, how colorful, how things and that it's kind of like more in first standard, and it became less in till the 10th standard. Okay. This is what gradually kind of like a decreasing. Okay, till the 10th standard. Why? Okay, why is that? uh because when you arrive till the 10th standard, that means till the age of kind of like a 17, you probably aware of color, texture and things and that, so you don't really require that much amount of information about colors, because you probably knew it things till now. And textured is also till you remember. Okay. Yeah. It's not really that you didn't really not remember that thing. Okay. Yeah, because we've been kind of like a living life, see the world, so basically till the age of 19 or 17 we understand that ki, okay, this is a kind of like a red, this is a yellow, this is things and that. It's kind of like it should supposed to be too much till the first standard, like first standard, second standard, third, fourth, fifth. It should supposed to be kind of like how should supposed to be how a lot of colorful classroom. Okay. Yeah. There is also one thing that I wanted to kind of like strictly is this thing, make sure that have a less exposure of screens. Okay. Yeah. Means like that ki at the first standard you can make your classroom as much as colorful as it can, but do not put any kind of like a screen, or do not put any kind of like a projector or things and that. Why? Because the student are very vulnerable at that age. Okay. And they are always wanted to seek what's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Basically is this thing na ki the children are much more addicted towards screen than adult. Okay. Yeah. Because adult are aware of that, children doesn't. Okay. Yeah. And if they are kind of like getting that dopamine peak at early stage of their life, then whatever they will gonna get, it should supposed to be always gonna less, so they will always feel like that ki they don't really get it and things and that. It's a kind of like a things that na ki basically is this thing that ki you have a lot of food at the early stage of your life, then probably is this thing you don't really kind of like somebody as much feel that much important that what kind of like a food that you get in the rest of the life, because you already ate too much in your early stage. This is what exactly is it. So exposure of less screen would be much more better. Okay. Make sure that wall they are colorful, their classroom should supposed to be colorful. Okay. And these are kind of like a things are, make sure that having make sure that do not give any kind of like a screen till the age of 5. Okay. Probably I think. Yeah. Because screen is a kind of like a thing that na ki once in a lifetime we will gonna use it, and it's not gonna denial fact. Because we are kind of like living in such a world where mobile phone screens are always been part of the world, and even if there is a kind of like so much dangerous to a student, but still it is the only way that we could supposed to be kind of like basically this thing, it's a kind of like a very much kind of like a debate. Okay. Because let me tell you one thing, I am kind of like I'm executing the Gurukul program. Now in the Gurukul program, from the 5th standard I will kind of like give a student to a tablet. Okay. Yeah. Now this is a kind of like a very much big problem that ki if I am giving tablet to a 5th grader student, this age is almost like 11 or 12, 11. Yeah. So is it worth it, or is it like a good, basically this thing, that's a kind of like a very much debatable question. Okay. Yeah. That should I supposed to give the tablet to a kind of like a somebody at the age of 10 and things and that. I don't want to, but I don't have any option. I don't have any option. Why is that? Because let me tell you one thing now. Okay, yeah, it's not really that ki they will not gonna see the screen, and it's not really that ki they will not gonna kind of like somebody have a kind of like somebody that ki very less exposure of mobile screen. Obviously they will get the mobile screen, they will expose with the mobile screen, even if I how stop how much I stop things and that. Like what exactly is this thing now? If I know that this is a mobile screen and it might gonna damage the brain of a 10-year-old boy or 10-year-old children, so should I not use this thing, right? Like should I not use this thing? But if I not use that thing, it's not a kind of like option, because this screen, this mobile phone is part of our life too. Okay, yeah, this will not gonna go on. Like even if I kind of like even if I decided that okay, I shouldn't supposed to be use screen, I do not have to give tablet to students and things and that, but somewhere in the life they will gonna use this thing, and it will not gonna eliminate that. It will not. Okay, yeah. So basically what I have to do is this: utilize this screen for right purposes. Oh yeah. Like basically is this thing: if the students are addicted towards screen na, so let me utilize that addiction towards the right direction. Okay, yeah. If I do that thing, it would be much more better. Because of that, if the 10th grader student, like basically like a 5th grader student at the age of 10 who is kind of like exposed with the screen, so basically I am already giving a tablet. Now that tablet is a kind of like have limitation that you cannot do this and that, but some certain you can do this, like basically divert this kind of like a student attention towards something new, creativity and things and that. I design my tablet in a such a way that student will not gonna get addicted that much. Okay, yeah. Or whatever the kind of like a some video or whatever the things that they are watching should supposed to be kind of like a something essential for their growth, not a kind of like a addiction. Okay, yeah. So this is a kind of like a things that I want, because screen are always part of the life. We like I'm 2026. Okay, yeah, and screens are everywhere. You cannot stop to not to have that. Okay, it always been there. So utilize that technology for right purposes, divert that student to a right purposes, and basically is this thing na, ki there is a lot of advantage to it too. Like basically is this thing, in reality I cannot perform a kind of like such a experiment that in reality might not gonna happen. Example is this thing, let's just say a kind of like a, let's just say trigonometry. Okay, yeah. So trigonometry is a kind of like a somebody lesson where kind of like all the numericals, sine, theta, cos, tan, whatever it is. I still don't know what exactly that means, things and that. Oh yeah. And visually representation would be even more difficult, because even if I'm really good teacher, I try to say, okay, this is a triangle, this is that, this is that, this is that. It's just very much difficult. And as also is this thing that na ki it depends on teacher how it's supposed to be do this thing. But when you have kind of like a screen, when you are kind of like a somebody execute same piece of content or teaching a same trigonometry through the video, you have a lot of chances that you have to kind of like a visualize much more better. Okay, yeah. Like you can showcase the triangle in much more different way and things and that. Like visually representation would be much more easier to execute the information through video language, right? So do you get it? So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so I wanted to kind of like somebody kind of like like basically from video point of perspective, I'm kind of like a teaching very complex subject from video point of perspective, and people will understand. And I okay, let me tell you one thing now. I still remember that I kind of like watch a kind of like a scientific video about a cosmos. Okay, and I still remember the every episode, the way that they actually happened, the black hole, the DNA, the everything. I still remember that. Why? Because visually things we still remember a lot instead of text. Like same example, like I already give the hundreds of time. If I'm say elephant, you are kind of like imagine elephant. You are not imagine ELEPHENT. right? Our brain imagine through a images, not a kind of like a something, a text. Okay, yeah. And video is a kind of like a very much biggest tool, so that we would visualize stuff, so that student will imagine, okay, this is that, the mechanism is actually kind of like a four stroke engine is work like that way. Okay, so this is what it is. A visual representation would be much more better. But still I realize that na ki probably is this thing that ki till the first standard to fifth standard I shouldn't supposed to give any kind of like a screen to a student. Make sure that ki they will kind of like a getting as much as natural experience, like this is the color, this is the texture, this is a kind of like a some breathe, this is the smell. Okay, yeah. Like since human actually born, um, basically it adapt the information around the surrounding. Okay, yeah. What is actually this color, why I turn on the switch, fan is turned on, why is actually there is a lot of curious mind, our brain are too much. But because of the environment, sometimes we ask questions, sometimes we just don't. Okay, why? Let me kind of like a give you example. Let's just say a kind of like a somebody 4-year-old daughter who kind of like a something that he really happy to see his father came home from the office. Now basically is this thing that ki daughter is a kind of like a really excited to see her father, and she's kind of like a meeting her, she's hugging, father is actually also hugging and things like that and that. Now father is really tired and he's really wanted to just kind of like actually not to do anything at all. And a daughter is kind of like a keep poking that he, daddy, what is exactly this, what is exactly that, what is exactly that, what is exactly that. And most of the parents are kind of like a somebody just not to tell them or not to interact with them, or kind of like a somebody just having that much very less interaction. Okay, yeah. Why is that? Same in part, like basically the kind of like a parents are already exhausted through the office work and things and that and that. And because of this thing happened, like I understand the parents like are really tired and they are not really kind of like only wanted to talk to their kids and things and that and that. Okay, they might gonna talk something but not too much. Okay, but the kids have very curious mind. Okay, they just want to know why this switch kind of like a simply work the way that it should supposed to be. If I turn on this, it kind of like a did this and that and that and that. So basically is this thing I want that kid parents should supposed to be interact with their children. Okay, yeah. But obviously because of the world that we are living, we don't really have that. I cannot supposed to be expect from their parents should supposed to be kind of like a, yeah, parents would kind of like a somebody tell them this and that and that. So I'm gonna make sure that I kind of like a build such a classroom where student will get as much as curious and they will ask question. How? First of all, make sure my classroom as much as colorful. I'm talking about first standard to fourth standard. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna make sure my classroom is as much as colorful, as much as kind of like a textured and things and that and that. Now, colorful I understand, paint a wall and things and that and that. Textured, textured means what na ki like a let them give a kind of like a couple of toys or a couple of kind of like a somebody things that ki they just feel. This is a smooth, velvet is a smooth. This is a kind of like a rough surface. This is a wet surface. Kind of like a give. There are multiples of toys are actually available. Okay, so that they would kind of like a feel that textured and things and that and that. One thing. Another thing is that key interaction. Children are very much comfortable to talk with their children or talk with their parents. Why? Because like parents are the only one person they are kind of like a scene towards their entire life. How much entire life? Almost like a 4 or 5 year. Okay, but they seeing as a very much secure. But teacher like a student are very much hesitate to talk to teacher. That is true, that is definitely true. Okay, so what exactly is this thing? Interaction. Teachers should supposed to be interact a lot with their student. Okay, yeah. And how? It's a very much stupid way, but still it's work. Make sure that teacher should supposed to do a lot of movement, hand movement, kind of like a do a dancing things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Do a kind of like some of these things that like basically just think make a kind of like a very fun happy environment. Okay, as a teacher point of perspective, and kind of like they do a lot of movement, a kind of like a dancing. Okay, because most of the student are learn by doing. Okay, And obviously is this thing, dancing is a kind of like a thing is that they would kind of like learn more. Teacher interaction would be much more essential in here, because teacher are kind of like leaving their comfort zone, even if how serious that teacher was. When that particular teacher would come, supposed to be come into that particular classroom, he should supposed to be execute every kind of like assembly things, as much as kind of like expressive, and as much as kind of like some things, and as much as lightly politely to the students and things, and that like A for B for C for like basically, yeah, okay, and then everyone are kind of like yelling apple ball. Okay, yeah, like kind of understand. Okay, then basically what is 2 plus 2? Some kid might understand, some kid might not. So basically give the experiment like this is a kind of like a 2, this is a Shraddha, this is the Surat, and this is a kind of like something the Akshay, and this is the Sakshi. Now both are combined together, so how many is that? Count. Sakshi, Suraj, 4 people. So there is a 4. Okay, so try to understand, like basically let them kind of like give the visualization point of perspective, so that they would understand what exactly addition means, like addition, subtraction. Instead of kind of like teaching them into the word, let them kind of like simply teach by the visual representation. This is the 4 out of like this is a 2, this is the 2 came together became 4. Okay, so this is kind of like a some visual representation. Same thing with the addition. Multiplication might be a little bit difficult, but utilize a kind of like a creative way to kind of like a tell. Important thing is that teacher interaction. Okay, yeah. Also really essential. Okay, yeah. The ratio should supposed to be essential. I don't want like a first standard to fourth standard ratio would be 1:15. 1:15 means what? 15 student for one teacher. Okay, yeah. Do not put too much student. Like basically if like there is a 60 student for one teacher, teacher might not kind of like involve with all those 60 student, or even in the 30 student. Why? Because obviously is this thing, every student really required a kind of like a even equal attention. Okay, yeah. And obviously teacher cannot give that much attention towards how much time that they have and things and that. So ratio would be kind of like a 15:1. Like basically from the 5th standard and 10th standard it would be kind of like a 30:1. But from the first standard to 4th standard it should supposed to be ratio would be 15:1. For the 15 student, one teacher. Okay, yeah, kind of like a things. So this is how kind of like a something that a classroom or school should supposed to be welcoming regarding about the paint and teacher and things and that. Okay, yeah. Make sure that everything that they learn in the classroom, specifically like basically 1st to 4th standard they will not gonna go to the Gurukul. Okay, definitely not. 1st to 4th standard they will kind of like stay in their school. Okay, yeah. So this is what very essential that let them kind of like learn by doing everything. Basically is this thing, the material, how kind of like a heavy is material. Like basically same block of iron would be much more heavier, but same block of wood would be much more lighter. Okay, yeah. Let them build such a toys, or let them build like not let them build like build such a kind of like a toys, or kind of like a somebody the like I don't know what exactly is this thing, they kind of like a multiple mechanism. Okay, yeah, so that they would kind of like somebody learn by doing it. Okay, yeah, this and that. And teacher should supposed to be make sure that teacher the telling everything by visually, by action, by movement as much as possible. Like basically there is a kind of like a couple of I went to Raman Science Center in Nagpur, and they have kind of like assembly multiples of kind of like assembly toys. Okay, it's not a typical toys, it's a kind of like assembly a slide. Okay, a slide or seesaw, things and that. So they build a kind of like such a toys according to that. Okay, so I kind of still remember there is a kind of like a block. Okay, the iron block with look like a kind of like a same. Okay, their color is actually same, everything is actually same. So you lift the iron block, it will be much more heavier. Wooden block, which would be much more lighter. The plastic block would be much more even more lighter. Okay, yeah. So let them students should supposed to understand the weight system, how each block is kind of like something difficult or different than another block and things and that. Okay, yeah. Then basically is this thing, there are a lot of kind of like a toys are actually exist, so that student will not only play with that toys, like it's not typical toys, it's not a Lego things and that, it's a kind of like it's just typical slide kind of thing. I don't really have any kind of like a right now thing, but they have stuff like a like a like in the Raman Science Center they have a lot. They have like a basically entire park is actually made up by that. I mean, it's really creative, by the way, it's really creative and really fun. Okay, so use that multiple kind of like a toys, or build that toys into the school as much as possible, so that student will kind of like learn and things and that. Okay, they will kind of like do their kind of like assembly, like even if they went to the recess they will understand, they play with that particular toys and they will learn from it. Okay, so this is the things that I want. Okay, but still the bigger question okay, the bigger question is that key implementation these toys, implementation this good school, implementation of the good classroom and teacher and things and that, it would be much more easier to do in city. What about village? And this is a kind of like a biggest problem that I have. How do I supposed to implement all those things into the village? Because in the village there is a lot of factor are actually responsible. Because first of all is that I might not found that many student. Okay, yeah. In the city you might found maybe 200 students which are from the first standard to fourth standard, but 200 student I didn't found in village. I might found 50 or maybe 100 or even less than that. Okay, yeah. Why? Because like let's just say from the above fifth standard they will went to the Gurukul. So basically from first standard to fourth standard they will have very less student. Obviously it depends on village capacity. Like if the village have very big, obviously they would have that thing. But another problem is that even if they have kind of like a 200 kind of like a somebody the student, providing that much facility towards the village is even more difficult. Why? Because like I'm gonna kind of like make sure that the teacher should supposed to be from local area, but building that thing and those toys and things and that and colorful classroom and things and that, the stuff that I say and implement will gonna happen, it's kind of like the expectation and reality is actually far more different in village. So that is a big challenge, and that's what I'm not really sure how do I supposed to do this thing. Because I think that I would kind of like attend to some certain body that can kind of like control everything, make sure that they will get kind of like get everything as much as possible. But still it just thinks that there is a like I know that there is a kind of like a things will gonna happen. Like basically is this thing, government are still trying to kind of like providing education in the village, and they are kind of like still struggling, because obviously there is a lot. Okay, yeah. Like a village are kind of like situated in such a place where you can't expect, let's just say there is a village at the top hill, how you should supposed to provide that thing. Okay, yeah. Another thing, some village are kind of like so tiny, the population of that village is almost like 1,000, and the children are almost like let's just say 200 or maybe less than that. It's, yeah, the obvious choice would be that kind of like some shift that student from that village to somewhere village where kind of like things are actually available. But still the transportation cost include, then there is a safety is actually kind of like on the line, and there is a lot of stuff. Okay, yeah. So that's the big problem. Okay, yeah. Gurukul, like a Gurukul is a kind of like a really good, like I think about Gurukul, I like basically this thing, Gurukul is a kind of like a place where I accumulated all the student in one place, and I'm kind of like giving the facility and things and that and that and that. I'm probably, even if I'm not there, Gurukul will kind of like improve by themselves, because it's not that kind of like I should put that much attention. Okay, yeah. But in the village school, that's a problem. But I have to figure it out. It's not really that I can, but yeah. So this is it. I should supposed to be end here, and thank you.